Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade.
Welcome to the Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to the Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here a special guest. His name is Dr. Clete Bulach, and we are here to speak about the 5 basic human needs. Dr. Bulach, he's an author and the CEO at Professional Development and Assessment Center. Hi, Dr. Bulach. Welcome to the show.
Well, good afternoon, Jade. It's a pleasure being on your show.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about this topic with you. I want us to first tell the audience what are the 5 basic human needs and where is this concept originated from? Where did it originate from?
Well, people have talked about it for centuries, even going back to the Middle Ages. Somebody way back in the Middle Eastern came up with the idea that power was one of life's most important needs. Well, the 19th century philosophers is the next documentation of philosophers trying to identify why do people behave the way they do. And of course, their needs determine why they behave the way they do. That one about control goes back to the Middle Ages. The first one that was identified back in the 19th century by philosophers was life, that people wanted to be alive. They didn't want to feel stress, anxiety, and worry. And there was a guy named Nietzsche, a famous philosopher, also an atheist, by the way, who came up with, he agreed with that, but he said there's another need that's more important, and that is power. He says, power is a need that everyone wants. Well, power, what do they mean when you say power? Why is power needed? Well, power is what you need when you want to control something.
Right.
So control and power are synonymous, but power is what you use to get control. Now, there are 9 forms of power. We won't get into that today. Then another guy came along and said, well, happiness is important. You want to be alive. You don't want to be and you want to have control, but you also want happiness, some happiness. And those were the 3 early needs that came along. And I came up with another need based on my research and education, and it's caring. If you were to wake up one day and realize that nobody cared about you, that would be an awful feeling.
Yes.
And if you think about what's happening in the nursing profession, they studied the role of nurture, which is another name for caring. Nurture is how people help you, how they take care of you. And the study focused on babies that were nurtured or cared for. And babies that were left alone were not cuddled and were not held and were not taken care of. They did not do well. Babies that were nurtured, cared about, they did very well. So caring is the 4th basic need. Life, happiness, control, and caring are the 4 needs that I have listed in my 2 books on how to create high performing schools. And then you come to the 5th need, and purpose is the 5th need. And that's been identified by a number of people. Warren, Purpose Driven Life, has a book out called The Purpose Driven Life. And of course, the Dalai Lama have come up with purpose as a important need. Life with no purpose is no life either. So those are 5 needs. There's another famous person who came up with a hierarchy of needs. His name is Maslow.
Yes.
He wrote that in 1943. He came up with this philosophy of a hierarchy of needs. And strangely enough, the needs that I've identified correlate with that very well. My life need, fear for life, he has physiological needs. Well, physiological needs is a kind of high-sounding, highfalutin term, and it doesn't apply to real life as much as I like. So I prefer my life need and fear for lack of anxiety and stress and so forth about your life as more important than physiological needs. But he identified it as basic survival needs such as food, water, shelter, and health. If you don't have those, you can't live. Then he came up with safety needs. He said security, stability, and protection from harm. Well, I say that's control. If you have control, you're safe, you're stable, you're secure. If you don't have control of your life, that's an awful feeling. So do you understand that need?
Yes.
Maslow calls it safety needs. I call it control.
Okay.
The next need he came up with in his hierarchy, and these are a hierarchy from highest
To lowest.
to the lowest. You know, when the ones on the bottom are met, you move up the ladder according.
Right.
So if your physiological needs and safety needs are met, then you worry about your love and belonging needs.
Right.
Okay, I call that caring. He calls it affection, relationships, and connection with others.
Right.
I call that caring. Then he came up with, I had happiness. He came up with esteem needs, self-respect, recognition, and a sense of accomplishment. And his last need, the one that is called self-actualization, when you realize your potential, I came up with purpose. If you achieve your purpose, you self-actualize. So all I've done is taken his hierarchy and brought it. I'm just a farm boy from Indiana, so this stuff has to make sense. So I came up with life, control, caring, happiness, and purpose. That seems to me like more important than his highfalutin names for his hierarchy of needs. And I don't think there's a hierarchy. I think there's an interrelationship with these needs. If you don't have a purpose, well, happiness is fleeting. It won't be very long.
Right.
If nobody cares about you, your life just isn't worth living. And if you have no control of your life, you must do something with your life. So the problem, and if you think of control, I say control is the most important need. I agree with Nietzsche. And power is the thing that people have that give them control. If you don't have power, then you can't get control. When you say, well, what is power? Well, position power. Position power is one form of power. Now, if people really like you and they trust you, that's another form of power.
Right.
Well, and there are 7 other forms of power. For example, if you have the ability to reward people like parents do, parents have power, right? Mom?
Right.
Okay. They have the ability to reward and punish you, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, another form of power is you have to be connected to somebody who's got power. If you aren't connected, then you have no power. For example, I'll give you a good example. Mom and dad. Mom sees a kid who's misbehaving and says, just wait till your dad comes home. I'm going to tell him what you did. And dad comes home and mom tells dad what the kid did. And dad says, I don't know what's so bad about that. I did that when I was a kid. Why don't you just let that go? What happens to mom's power?
It dissipates. There's no power there anymore.
Right. The same thing happens when teachers send kids to the office to be punished or disciplined by the principal. If they don't get supported, they lose their power.
Yeah.
So you got position, reward, and coercion, power, and then there's that connection power. If you aren't connected, you don't have power. So somebody has to give you the authority to control people.
Yes.
Now, in Iran, the Ayatollah is connected. Somehow he has the power, and on with the forms of power. Actually, if you're an expert in a given field and everybody looks up to you because of what you can do, that gives you another form of power. And there's another form of power called moral power. What's the right thing to do? The Bible tells us what's the right thing to do. So if you believe in the Bible, then you have moral power.
Yes.
And so you see how control is so important in a person's life.
Yes. Very important.
And the crazy thing is, if you have control and you're not afraid of your life, you're comfortable with where you are, with your needs, and everything's met, then happiness comes about. You feel good and you have moments of happiness. You can't be happy all the time because all things are relative. If you're happy all the time, then what is happiness? It's just something that you're used to all the time. But if there are moments when you're not happy, you feel sad, then when you feel happy, there's a difference in how you feel.
Yes.
So moments of happiness must be part of life. Okay. So this caring thing is so important. I actually believe that when it comes to life itself, let's talk about Elvis Presley. Let's talk about Marilyn Monroe. Let's talk about the people who commit suicide. They've got it all.
They don't, because if they did, they wouldn't have committed
Got
suicide.
it all, but they commit suicide or they kill themselves with drugs and alcohol. They join gangs. Why do they do that? Because they need somebody to care about them. So if you've got it all and you realize that they like you because of your money or because of what you do, but they don't really care about you as a person, if they perceive that nobody cares about them, that is an awful feeling, and I think it leads many people to commit suicide. It also, if you think of caring, and let's suppose you believe that nobody cares about you, and let's suppose that you have no control. Let's take a kid who goes to school and he believes that nobody cares about him and everybody's bullying him. He has no control. Nobody cares. He's not happy. What's he going to do? He's going to do something. Well, the guy who shoots in school is often one of those people. They believe nobody cares. They don't have any control. They're being bullied. They're not happy. So they get a gun, they go back to school, and they show them, I'll show you bastards who bullied me, and he shoots people. Does that make sense to you?
No.
Yeah. And if you look at the profile of the people who get a gun and go to school and shoot, oftentimes they fit that profile.
Very true. I want to know, though, Dr. Clete.
Where do you want to go with this from here? We've got the 5 needs, and Maslow put them all together in this hierarchy, and he's got all of these physiological needs and esteem needs and so forth. I've got to simplify the 5 basic needs: life, control, caring, happiness, and purpose. Where would you like to go from here?
I want to ask, though, in terms of the needs, how can someone recognize, though, when a particular need is not being met? And what are some healthy ways that we can fulfill that?
Well, it's easy. You see someone who is misbehaving. You see somebody who is crying. You see somebody who is unhappy. You see somebody who is doing something they shouldn't be doing. You see somebody who's fighting. You see somebody who's resisting, and on with the misbehavior. People who misbehave or don't behave in a normal way, they're doing so because a need or needs are not being met. If you want to help people with that, this is what I used to do. You can do this. You say, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about your life in terms of you feel secure and all of your your life to be alive than those needs? Are you afraid? Where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you go to control. Where would you put yourself?
So you use the different ones and ask them pertaining to where is it that they feel on the scale of 1 to 10, and then they tell you from that. Then you'll use it, right?
If they say that they're a 2 or 3 on control, you know that that's a need that's not being met, and you can try to help them. What you could say? What needs to change in your life so that you can feel like you're in control?
So you do an assessment. An assessment can also help to determine this.
Yeah.
Mm. I want to know, in a world that's driven by achievement and success, how can people meet their need for power or control without falling into unhealthy patterns like manipulation? How can we gain control without manipulating someone or something?
Well, you know what's going on in the Middle East right now. It's all about control, isn't it?
Right.
And in Ukraine and Russia, it's all about control. Wars have been fought for one reason: to gain control. They want to control the neighbor, the country, the whatever, the money, the power. It's all about control. Life is all about control. Now, how do you get control? Well, the other 8 forms of power give you control. Parents give control to their kids, but they should not give it up, because you can go into Walmart every day and watch parents who allow their kids to control them. And it's a disaster. When a leader gives control and gives it up to the other people, you lose your ability to lead.
If it is that someone feels empty or stuck in life, how could reflecting on these 5 needs that you have spoken about, whether it's Maslow's needs or the ones that you have simplified, how can these needs serve as a starting point for change and personal growth?
Well, the biggest thing, you have to start with caring. I think it's in the hierarchy. If I were to use a hierarchy, it's not like Maslow's. He starts with physiological needs. Those needs have to be met. Your food, your water, your shelter, and your health. When a baby is growing up, those absolutely have to be met. So if you're a parent or a leader or whatever, and the people you're interacting with, if you see them where those needs aren't being met, buy them a lunch, buy them a dinner, give them some clothes, see what you can do to see that those needs are met. So at the bottom of the hierarchy, I guess that is there. But caring is the next one, I would say, has to be there. So if you show people that you care about them, you shake their hand, you hug them, you smile at them, you're nice to them, you ask them, how are you doing, and so forth. And then if you're the leader, this control thing comes up. If person's life needs are being met and they're cared about, they tend to be happy. So if you have your life needs are met and you have caring and you have happiness, then you come to control and purpose. You can have all 4 of the other needs met, but if you have no purpose, if you just imagine for a minute, Jade, people retire at 65. If they have no purpose after retirement, what are they going to do with the rest of their life?
Yep, and the thing about that with that is that when people retire without any purpose, you find out that sometimes they die quicker.
Without purpose, you just start dying.
Yeah.
It's a slow death. But life with no purpose is no life.
True.
So my purpose in life, even though I'm 87, I've got manuscripts I'm writing on the 5 basic needs and the use of the 9 forms of power and the role of caring in education, and how that helps to meet the needs, and the 9 forms of power can be used to create a high learning environment. Anyway, you have to have a purpose in life.
Yes, you do. I agree with that.
These things fit together.
I want to know, for the persons out there listening who wants to speak with you more about these 5 needs, how can they contact you? How can they get your books? How can they find out a little bit more about you?
Both of them are on Amazon.com. And of course, I do have a website at www.westga, West Georgia, West, westga.edu, front slash, that front slash on your computer. And up in the left hand corner of the keyboard is a little thing called a till, very left hand corner at the top. And C. Bulach, C as in cat, B as in boy, ULACH. They can get on my website. I have a lot of materials, publications there that they can, and the books are listed there as well.
Okay, good. I want to thank you so much for coming and even sharing the simplified version of Maslow's hierarchy. We do need those things, and you made an important part about the need of caring. It's important that, people show care.
I would say the most important thing you can do in your life is to show people that you care about them. That goes a long way. Because they'll be happy. Showing people you care will make them happy. And it gives them control when you show caring needs. And maybe you can help someone identify what their purpose in life is. Parents out there listening in on this, ask your kids, what do you think your purpose in life is going to be? What do you want to be? Because until they have a purpose, studying books doesn't seem to make much sense. Why? But if you have a reason for it, I often ask kids who seem to have no purpose in life. I said, well, who in your life do you admire? What person do you really look up to? And they identify a role model. And I say, well, you're a role model. What are you going to have to do to be like that? What are you going to have to do to get where that person is? And try to get them focused on how to be, a purpose. Give them a purpose in life.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. And I'm sure my listeners also benefited from hearing what you had to say and how they can even apply it to their lives. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure being with you, Jane.
It's a pleasure having you. And I want to say thank you so much again to my listeners for continuing to listen to The Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing. You're trying to help people with their lives, and that's important.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.